Hi guys, it's Stefan. Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about the Season 8 Diana builds after the item changes, so we're on patch 8.5. There's going to be people watching this video that are not familiar with my channel. Those who don't know who I am an administrator for the Diana main subreddit. I own the Diana main's Discord. I have a combined total of about 600,000 mastery points, so just a little. Yeah, I kind of know what I'm doing and what I'm talking about. So let's just get into this. So there's two starter build items that you go for on Diana. There you don't really take Doran's shield or anything like that. There's really no advantage to that. First is the standard that you'll take in most of your games is the double potion into Doran's ring. That's like the standard because it gives you the mana regen to push out the lane early and so on. Here's the alternative. This gives you a little bit more healing. It's a little bit cheaper. As in you don't need to continuously buy potions. This heals you a lot combined with the passive of Dark Seal. There's no specific matchup that you take this in. This is kind of personal preference, but I would say that maybe something like Cassiopeia Nasir. Well, no, actually, I'm going to cancel that. I'm not going to suggest a matchup. Because you do need the mana in from Doran's to push waves. So, here's the first build. This is for the majority of Diana players that just randomly play her without, trying out different builds. So Revolver is a super strong item. I think that I'm not exaggerating anything saying that. Gives you bonus damage when you auto attack someone. Like at level 6 this does about 70 extra damage, plus it gives you 40 AP, which is like almost, I mean, large rod is 60 AP, so this is just a super efficient item. Spellbound orb is a spellbinder, whatever, is just really good. 100 AP, 10% movement speed. The use effect of this is just really good on Diana. It just is. Gives you the movement speed to catch up to someone, gives you the bonus AP to one-shot them. The boots in all these builds are optional. If there's a lot of CC, you might want to go for Mercs. If they're mostly AD auto attack champions, then you might want to go for Ninja Tabby. But the standard is Stork shoes, but do as you feel like is right. So now we get to the first item. There's one thing I forgot to really talk about. The item changes for patch 8.5, 8.4, the item changes, that didn't really help Diana much. Like, Spellbinder and the old Ludens are about as good, but the Spellbinder is a lot cheaper. So that's a good item. And the only other change that is actually gonna help us is the increased AP on Death Cap and the reduced cost. So if you don't know, they reduced the cost by 200 gold and made us get 5% more increased ability power from 35 to 40%, which is huge. And for those who don't know, Diana has insane AP ratios, like insane. So, and then Sonya's, this is like the normal one-shot build. You want to one-shot someone, Sonya's, wait for your cooldowns, one-shot someone again, you get the Void Staff, and then you get 3 optional items. The standard is probably Morello or Lichbane. Obviously, you want Morello if they have like healing tanks or a lot of squishes because magic penetration. Leandry's is going to be really good into tanks. Like, it still does a lot of damage. It's more, I would say it's better if you have cooldown reduction on Diana, which this build only has 10% of. And then Lichbane is a pretty strong item since it has 0.5 AP scaling as well. So it just goes back to this whole making this death cap super efficient for us. And then the Banshees, nobody does Banshees on Diana. It's pointless. I mean, it's good for the MR, but nobody does this. But I left it in there just in case. So that's the standard assassin build. So now let's move on to the Rod of Ages Nashor's build. This one has a very linear path that you just follow every game. So the weaknesses and strengths of this build is that this is more of a scaling, you know, Kassadin type build, you know, get to 3 items and you're a monster. So again, the same thing with the boots here. You take whatever the composition requires, but Sork Shoes is a good like standard. So why Rod of Ages? Well, it gives 100 AP once it stacks up. It only costs 2.7k gold, and it gives you tankiness. And it gives you mana sustain and health sustain through lane phase. So just a super safe item. This is like the safest Diana build, which might not be for everyone because Diana is played as an assassin most of the time. So you have Nashers. The synergize is great with our passive, giving us a lot of AP and attack speed and on hit and cooldown reduction. Just really good item. Now here we have the third item, Death Cap. As we know, Death Cap was buffed, and Death Cap is just probably the best item in the game for Diana right now. And then we have Void Staff, usual, want the magic penetration, and then we have Sonya's to, you know, delay our death a little bit. But I will say that if you're not familiar with Diana at all, we don't aim to go to late game. Yeah, Diana can do great damage late game, but she's not a late game champion. Mostly due to her inability to escape after killing someone. Like we think about Kassadin, right? He goes in, kills someone, Sonya's, and then he can get out. Or Echo can go in, kill someone, and then ult back out. You know, Diana doesn't have that. Mostly, unless there's minions literally just standing there waiting for you to help you get out. But so Diana's late game is not super good. This is probably the best late game build on Diana because you do have the 30% cooldown reduction, and then there's the Void Staff as well to kill the tanks, and Nashers with your passive with Void Staff is super good. But with the other builds, you are aiming to end the game before 30 minutes. You don't want the game to go on. Like I've looked at the statistics over the years. Diana's win rate always drops off after 30% or 30 minutes, excuse me. So I looked at it. The win rate for Diana between 0 and 25 minutes is 59% win rate. And it's 53% before 30 minutes, and then it drops off drastically. So your goal, if you're not used to the Rod of Ages playstyle, this may not suit you really well. So here's a niche build that there was a Korean Diana player a couple of years back that invented this build with triple Dorans into Death Cap a while ago. Well, I decided to reinvent it because that's what I do. I played with this the moment the AP changes came out, and then I suggested everyone in the Diana mains community to try it out. Everyone loved it, everyone thanked me, so I'm going to give this to you guys. Double Doran's ring for the early AP. Revolver is a key because this gives you 40 AP, it's really good. And then you get the choice between a needlessly large rod or Sork Shoes. This is basically depends on what you can afford. If you can afford the large rod, that one is going to be better. However, there are situations where the movement speed here might help you against their team comps. That's kind of something you need to decide on which one you want. And then we have the early death cap. This leads us to about 300, 400 AP once we finish the item. It's pretty good, especially with Revolver, and then you have Absolute Focus in the Sorcery tree, which gives you bonus AP based on if you're above 70% health. It's all kinds of good. And this build is to end the game before 30 minutes. You, like you say, see, I only put 3 items here because this game is over. Like, you need to snowball this game, or you're gonna end up like going to the standard AP build again, where we just basically put Spellbinder Orb in here as well. You know, that's kind of how that goes. Then you have like the last item could be like Lich Bane. Like this is kind of what it would look like if you were to somehow go to full late game with this build. I don't advise doing this build against tanks because it's a squishy deletion build mostly. So, here's another Korean build, the Phase Rush build. This was made popular by one of the best Korean players, if not the best Korean players on Diana. So you do Phase Rush into Morello, into Sork Shoes. This is a really cheap but effective power spike. You actually do Sork Shoes first, sorry. So the same gist goes here. You want the early revolver. So the revolver is, you know, big power spike early. And then we move into the proto build. This is a really cheap and cost efficient item. 300 health, 60 AP, 10% cooldown reduction with the dash, which gives you a little bit more mobility. And then the point of this build is double flat penetration. That's kind of the point of this build. It's a snowball build. This build falls off really, really hard in the late game. So yeah, that's the builds. And if there's any questions, guys, leave them down below. The standard rune page with most of these builds, I'm just gonna go to runes right now and just make a little page to show this. So if you're doing Deathcap Rush, or not Deathcap Rush, if you're doing the Rod of Ages build, I would suggest doing this personally. Electrocute's just so good, AP scaling. And then you have Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm, and the Rowan Asher build is all about maximizing your AP and going into the late game. If you're more interested in playing like an assassin, then you do just Absolute Focus with Scorch. And you can also take Relentless Hunter if you want. I like the Ravenous Hunter for the sustain. And then if you were to do the Phase Rush build, then we're going with Phase Rush. Then we just do Nullifying Orb or Manifold Bend, depends what you want. Celerity, since that scales greatly with the Phase Rush, and then you take Scorch, because any early power is what you want. And then your defensive option is Bone Plating and Second Wind, or Bone Plating Mirror Shell if you want. You could also take you could also go, you know, Sudden Impact with Ravenous Hunter. All depends on playstyle. Diana's got a bunch of options that you can play with. I think the standard though could be this. This is like the good old standard Diana. You can also go Nullifying Orb with like Absolute Focus. You can go Bone Plating with Second Wind, or you could go Mirror Shell, or you could go Iron Skin. It's all based on what you want. There's a lot of options, so. But I think the base build for Rowan Asher would be this. And then the Assassin builds, again, you have the whole. You could even run this for Assassin, honestly, just extra AP. So I hope this guide, this little video helped you guys out. If there's any new people to the channel, if you want to subscribe, go for it. To all my other subscribers, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for the support over the last few months now. And if there's anything you guys need or want to hear, let me know. Bye.